My name is Amanda, and today I'm going to talk to you about doing handwork with children under the age of 5. I want to focus primarily on the 3-year-old today because that's where my child is at. He's 3.5 and he's just come into the point in his development where he can watch me do simple handwork tasks like wet felting a little ball or making a twisty twirly, which is just twisting yarn and then it all comes together like this is one we prepared earlier, like this. He can be involved in that and he's actually wanting to be engaged. But I wanted to mention not specifically what you can do with children under the age of 3, but what you should be striving to be as a parent or as a teacher around a child around the age of 3. So from a Waldorf perspective and from quite a few perspectives actually, we've learnt that children learn when they're under the age of 6, really, they learn through imitation. So they watch what's happening in the environment around them, and whatever affects them deeply will go into their little souls or their bodies, and that will inform their play. So an example of that, I'll give you one of my wholesome Waldorf parenting wins, is that we do a lot of gardening together. And when I say we do gardening together, it's really me doing the gardening and Phoenix picking up a spade and kind of digging a hole somewhere else and doing it himself. He doesn't often want to do the actual gardening. What he wants to do is see what I'm doing and then do it himself in his own way. And a lot of the time what he's doing isn't necessarily going to be, I don't want to use the word helpful, it's not necessarily a effective gardening thing that he's doing, but he's watching what I'm doing and he's processing it through play in his own way. And what I've started to notice is that when we go on walks, we'll just find seed pods, and then he spends quite a lot of time unraveling the seed pod or unpicking it, and he'll find the seed and then he'll go and just plant a tree, all off his own bat, but he'll just take the seed and say, I'm going to go plant a tree, and then off he goes and plants a tree in random places. So maybe in 10 years we'll go back to these places and all these phoenix trees will pop up. But my point here is that when I'm gardening with him, or when you're gardening with a 3-year-old, yes, you can guide them to do and to actually help you pot or plant and actually help dig a real hole that the strawberry plant will go into and water and all that kind of stuff. But you're not wanting to instruct, you're wanting to show and allow them to become involved if they choose to. So I've started to formulate my days around activities and things that need to be done, bringing in wood, doing the dishes, doing the ironing, building a shelf, cleaning the car, all that kind of stuff. And it's not really an activity for Phoenix per se, because it's all stuff that needs to be done, but I do it in a way that he can come and be involved if he wants to, or he can play around. And if he actually asks, how do I do this, or what's this for, or whatever, then I can show him. But I'm not using language to verbally give him instructions as to how to properly clean a car. I just try and do it in a way that all the materials that I'm using are, child friendly. They're all set up at his level so that he can pick it up and use it if he wants to. But it's really just about giving him the opportunity to engage in these things, and a child using his own, using his own will and his own imagination to engage in these things and watch what I'm doing. And one of the main key things when doing this is that they're watching how you are approaching the task. Are you frustrated? Are you trying to get through the dishes really quickly and you just bang, 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 done, move on to the next thing? Or are you being quite careful with your movements and washing something tenderly and placing it carefully and da-da-da-da-da, because telling a child to do something carefully if you're not doing it carefully is kind of, I don't know, I think you're setting yourself up for failure there. And I must admit, I do this a lot myself, you know, Phoenix, don't be so rough, or da-da-da-da. But then when I realize that what he's looking at is how I'm treating objects, or how I am performing a task is how he will. And so we're trying to show our children that even mundane tasks can be performed with a sense of mindfulness and care, and, you know, an inner stillness and love. So yeah, I kind of wanted to do this video more as like an introduction to a whole series of videos that I want to do that will actually be instructional for you as to how to do certain things like making twisty twirlies or wet felting, and how to set it up in a way that is child friendly. But I kind of wanted to just do a little riff video on my experiences with parenting a 3.5-year-old and the inner work that I'm having to do and the challenges that I'm facing in order to be worthy of imitation. I must say that these books that I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned, I can't remember, I don't know. But this book, Heaven on Earth, is really good. You Are Your Child's First Teacher is a really good book. And at the moment I'm reading a series of lectures called The Child's Changing Consciousness by Rudolf Steiner, and he gave that to the first, he gave them to teachers about, you know, the changing consciousness of a child, because our little ones don't have the same consciousness that we do. You know, the first 7 years is a very like different consciousness and way of approaching and experiencing the world to, you know, a kid between 7 and 14, or a young person between 14 and 21. And I myself am 34, and my consciousness is, I mean, it's not as extreme, but it's quite different to what a 64-year-old person's consciousness will be. And I think just kind of keeping that in mind, that our children aren't tiny adults in little bodies. They're actually, children is it's a different way of being. And I think the more we can do to study books like this that give us pictures and activities and ways of being around our child, and the more we can observe what it is that our child is needing, and how we can kind of put aside our own ego to do what's best for them, I think the better we'll be as parents and educators. And really, for the first 7 years, the education is really exposing your child to experiences and people who are worthy of imitation, you know, showing them that, yeah, they can do all these things out of love, and have them want to do activities or tasks because it's coming from an inner desire or wish to be part of something. When I'm doing handwork with Phoenix, we've started doing handwork Wednesdays. Well, actually we do an activity every day. We do painting on Mondays and crayon drawing on Tuesdays. Oh no, we do bread making on Mondays. Anyway, the point is, I set it all up and I start doing it. I don't necessarily say, Phoenix, it's time for painting. Although I did say that last week and it didn't go down well, because he's at that age where if I tell him to do anything, he'll do the opposite. He's very contrary. And so the way that I pull him into these activities is to just start doing them myself, and just start making up silly little songs. And if he notices that I'm kind of singing to myself and kneading bread or making twisty twirlies, he'll come and be involved. And he doesn't have to do the whole thing. Like, I'm not expecting him to knead bread to the same quality that a baker would knead bread. I'm not expecting him to twist the twisty twirlies as tight and as well as I'd expect an adult to do. But it's more about giving him the chance to really just play with materials. So I've created this little basket for him, which was an idea from You Are Your Child's First Teacher. So on handwork Wednesdays, or when I'm doing my handworky stuff, when I'm knitting, I've got this here for Phoenix as well, and it's got an embroidery hoop with some thread on it. This is an amazing stitch that he did the other day. I've just got some fleece because surprisingly he plays with this quite a lot and just kind of smushes it and just experiences what wool feels like. It's very tactile, and he can kind of do what he wants out of that. And then I've got 3 colors of yarn that we have been using for twisty twirlies, but honestly I kind of just let him do whatever he wants with these. If he wants to really unravel them and play with the cat with them, he's experimenting, he's using it. I try and encourage him to tidy up afterwards, and we're working on that. There's also just some more thread in here and some corfi seeds randomly. I don't know, we'll keep that in there. And as time goes on, I'll take things out and add things to it. But the point is to have this nice little basket set up. And I bring it out. If I'm wanting to make something, I'll bring this out too. And he kind of just makes things along with me, even though he's not focused on I'm making a doll or I'm making a twisty twirly. For his age, for Phoenix himself, he's focused on the doing. He's focused on the experience rather than the outcome. And that's another thing to be mindful of, is that children, maybe it changes when they get to about 4 or 5, but and of course the disposition of the child, but Phoenix isn't focused on I'm making a twisty twirly and this is what the end product will be. He's really just deeply engaged. He's got this dreamy consciousness of just flowing into an activity and being part of it and being with it, and then he'll flow out of it and go do something else, and he'll flow back into it. And so we tend to be focused on handwork for about, I don't know, half an hour, 40 minutes, where I'll be slowly, quietly doing tasks that he can be engaged with, felting or making twisty twirlies or making little knot dolls, and he can come and help, and he can engage as much as he wants. But I also am not pressuring him to, it's not like I'm working through a curriculum of like, we have to do this, 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 and this. It's more just providing him with the opportunity to watch me be engaged in like lovingly creating something. And he can help, he cannot, he like one time when we were doing it last week, the week before, I was making a twisty twirly, and he just got his broom out and then just started sweeping up. And his task around that was that he was tidying up while I was doing the handwork, and that was kind of his role in the whole thing, which was fine. You know, it's kind of like he's leading his own experience of the activity, but also I'm providing him with the structure of knowing that during that time, this is the kind of activity we're doing, and he can engage with it how he wants. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention too, was the rhythm and the structure is so important for kids. And we really want to let their individuality and their what it is that they've come here to do, whatever it is, to develop and flourish, and we want to nurture that. You know, we don't want to squash his who he is and, like I say, what he's come here to do. But in saying that, to just let children do whatever they want whenever they want to is really can be quite stressful for children, and they really need a structure around them that holds them. And I was reading in The Child's Changing Consciousness that Steiner was talking about how in play children are able to take experiences that they've seen adults do around them, or they've done with adults, you know, part of their structure, their rhythm, their routine, they take that into themselves, and through their play, how they digest it and how they play with that content is how they are able to express their individuality. For example, 2 children might help an adult stack firewood, let's just say, or be watching like adults chopping a tree down and sorting the wood out, stacking it, and all that kind of stuff. And then those 2 children will play around that or with that quite differently. One child might find a piece of wood that looks slightly like a little person and start playing with that wood and using it as a doll almost. Another child will see the stacking activity and want to make start making their own stack of wood, some just to make their own little stack of wood just like their dad's doing or whatever, and some children will take that wood and start creating things with the wood like huts, but they'll see that activity and they'll play it out in different ways and use that experience in different ways and use the materials in different ways that allow them to play what it is that they need to play. Yeah, so this is a little video which is kind of like a freestyle ramble into parenting, doing handwork, experiencing life with a 3-year-old, and you get to just hang out with me. You got to just hang out with me for 15 minutes on my kind of messy bed full of yarn and stuff. I hope that was relatively coherent, and I'm going to upload it to YouTube just because, and let me know what you think, and I will upload some tutorials about actually how to make a twisty twirly and do wet felting. But honestly, if you can't wait, there's so many on YouTube, so just go for it. And remember, the most important thing, one of the most important things in being a parent or educator of a little one is it's about who you are, your attitude towards the task that you're doing, and giving your child the space just to be a child while also exposing them to really nourishing human experiences. Go out in nature, do housework, create things, bring your child into it, and realize also that when you're doing this with a child, it's not always going to go the way that you think it's going to go. And in fact, most of the time it won't, and you won't get as much done as you would if they weren't there. Folding washing with my child is an all-day task. If I try and fold a sheet around him, honestly, I can't fold sheets around him. Like, I actually can't. As soon as a sheet comes out, it becomes a whole hour's worth of entertainment, which is fine. And also it's like, well, that's life, man. They grow up so fast, and we've got to kind of allow for these kind of things to play out the way that they play out. Anyway, thank you for your listening ears and your watching eyes. Recommend getting these books out from the library. Child's Changing Consciousness you can buy, or you can download a PDF, or you can listen to on rudolfsteineraudio.com. If you get it for free though, can I suggest you make a donation to Rudolf Steiner Press or the other publishing company, which I can't remember what it is, because they need money to keep printing all of Steiner's cool work. Yeah. I'll just leave it there for now. Ka kite anō, go well, and I'll speak to you soon.